Hey everyone, I hope you had a great trading day. So we're just going to jump right into it here. I've got about a little over, I tried to cut it down to 20 names. I have about 25 names. A lot of them are actionable, and I didn't want to leave out anything that was actionable considering going into tomorrow. I know some people are jumpy about the data that's coming out, the CPI number tomorrow. It's one event, it's one piece of data. That's all it is. Could it move the market? Sure. And then it could bounce. Then the market could bounce back like it's been doing. So let's just get right into it. The very first I want to go over is Apple. Everything will be in alphabetical order, and we're just going to start rocking and rolling here. So this is the level that you have to watch. We got over it, okay, and opened above it and closed at the low. I'll become concerned tomorrow if we take out a lower low versus some of these other levels. Now, I'm not going to use the 5-day because it's going to cloud everything up a little bit too much. But just to put this in perspective, I really don't have an overt problem with today's action. But we do have to remember something about Apple. Okay, the XLK is riding right, which is 20% of the XLK is the S&P sector that is technology. So 20% of that is Apple. So I'm right against this, right? And just to put this in perspective, and I don't believe that anybody has to look at this one, Microsoft's right on that line. So we're waiting to see that it's going to hold here and get through. They may not. They might come back, retest. So you're going to have to just keep your eye up on these. If they don't get through tomorrow, we have a lower low, and you take out this other level, and we start trying to close below the 8-day moving average, it might be time to go. It definitely would be time to go if we close below this. If I close below that 140.66 level, it's definitely time to get out of the trade. There's no question about that. So, but let's see how we do tomorrow, and we'll go from there. But they're the levels I'm looking at. This ALB I wanted to cover, and this is what I said. There's just like a ton of names today that are worth looking at. There we go. Fix that really quickly. So what I would say here is, you see this 187 level? Look where you closed. I mean, you closed right on it. Look at this volume that came in. Like I thought this was very interesting, and it's definitely one that I would put on my radar. As far as trying to trade it, you really need to get through that 192.86, and you have this huge base. But you need to get through this and close. That's what you're looking for. We need that to happen. Until this happens, you can't really chase it. You can't really buy it off this break here. But what a great move. And you don't have earnings to deal with until the end of August. So AMC, look, I'm just going to cover this one. I got asked a lot of questions about this. I was trying to point this out the other day. You've clearly broken down. I'm going to just show, let me get rid of these indicators. And I'm just going to show this. Okay. And we're going to put this right. Hold on 1 second here. Let me get rid of this. And let's get rid of this arrow so we don't confuse people. And we're going to get this out of the way. Okay. And I'm going to just try and draw this as perfect as I can so you can kind of see what's going on here. So this was our breakout bar, right? Then we came back down. We kind of tested here. And then we formed this rising wedge. Then we can't get over that rising wedge anymore, right? You see how we hit there, open up on it, come down, close, try and get through it again. Can't. You're riding right along that line. Now what happens? Now you're trying to get through this line, and you're unable to, okay? This was a clear failure today, and I'm not going to sit here and just try to make everybody feel good about their position. You got to look at what's going on here, right? So you're at 39, let's call it, as a low. Let's get the exact number so you can understand this. You're at 38.76, okay? So let's just pull this down to that. Let's see where we were here. Okay, so this was 39.71. Was the low on this day. The low on this day is 38.76. All right. So I couldn't even hold this here. Now, there's no reason that this opened, went up, and now closed at the low to think that I'm going higher. If anything, if you get if anything, now that you understand what you've broken by breaking this rising wedge, it takes you to this, right? A completion of this rising wedge pattern takes you to close here, takes you to $35, right? That's where it takes you. That's your next level. So we can argue that we have to get through this wedge, but more importantly, look at this. Okay, so you can understand your levels, whether or not you want to hold forever or whatever. At least you understand what you own. This 10 range bar is in charge. Okay, you're either going to break through it and try to get up to that wedge, or you're not, and you're going to come back down here. The way this is setting up is you're going to come back down here. So I'm going to give you some other data points that are probably going to allude to that a little bit clearer. But if you don't hold this and you get to this 35, that's not unrealistic for that to happen. So just keep that in mind. But look at this. From here to here. Okay. You have that range. Now, if we can get rid of this, right? You know, you remember this top of the bar. Let's remove all these horizontal lines for a moment. So I just want to point something out that's detrimental. You see how you have one line coming down like this? See how the new line trajectory is changing to the downside? Okay, just like when we look at these trajectory changes to the upside, the trajectory to the downside, that's no good. Like that's like the exact opposite of what you want to see on a stock, okay? So I understand the cheerleading and we're going to hold forever, but some people actually want to make money doing this. So for those people, you really need to watch what you're doing here. So this 8-day crossing, this 21 crossing up here, okay, if you break this, let's go through your levels. Okay, if you break this, you're going to your 50-day, which is $36, which just happens to be that pivot, right? They just happen to line up. So if you hold, you may hold there. You may see sponsorship in it. I don't know. I do know that we have to be blunt about this and state that this is not a short squeeze. There's a ton of stock out there to short. You can short as much as you like. So anybody can short more of it. Anybody can cover it. The company's issuing tens of millions of shares. Who blame? And nobody blames them because they're getting, you know, they're getting billions of dollars. So this is going to continue. And I would just tell you right now to avoid this until you see what it does till it gets to this level. So 35.59. AMD, I just want to run through very quickly. I have a bunch of people that, you know, this was our red bar and we got stopped out. And I'm going to get rid of all these lines. Okay. And we're going to get rid of all these annotations on AMD. And we're going to just go through this very quickly. Here's this red bar is in charge. Okay. Let's just think about that for AMD. Here's the AMD chart. So you can see this whole move, right? We don't even need moving averages or clouds or anything right now. Okay, we're just going to get right into it. This red bar is in charge. Since this red bar has been in charge, what do I have going on here? I have a rising wedge, right? We know that we clone these, right? There's a reason why they have a clone button there, right? So we know we clone these. Well, that's not really going. Okay, so that's your wedge. Okay, now knowing this, and I can get rid of this one and this one so that we're not confused. I have a bear flag. No matter how I want to slice it, I have a bear flag. I need to get above this before this is remotely actionable. Okay, so if you're in this and you're trying to get out, the first thing that you have to notice today is you have a red day. Right now, it could be the CPI numbers. Everybody's all concerned about them in the volume, and it is what it is. I'm not remotely concerned. The CPI is going to come out. We all know this, right? When it comes out, we all think that there's inflation. Okay, if there's signs that there's not inflation, we're going to go up. If it shows that there's signs of inflation, we already knew that. So that shouldn't really affect us. To me, it's neutral to a net positive tomorrow. That's how I'm viewing the CPI data without even seeing it yet. That's the kind of reaction I expect. I don't expect a massive sell-off. If we see it, we'll act on it. But until then, I think it's silly to go into this and sit on the sidelines waiting for one magical number like that's going to fix everything. But this 91.90 level, you see how you're unable to get above that? Going straight across here, if you break this line and this rising wedge, you're going to come back down to this level. right? That's what this is telling you, 87.45. So just keep that in mind. I would not be chasing this here. I would not. It does not look anywhere near as good as if you want to be in those. I mean, it's very clear. We saw what happened with, NVIDIA today. And we're going to cover NVIDIA later. I mean, if you want to buy one, buy NVIDIA. If you're in AMD, watch that line we just went over. AMEH, I'm just going to cover very, very quickly. We could throw the indicators in, but it's kind of pointless. It's pattern straight up. We've been talking about how to play this, and this Saturday when I went over it in the top 10 video again, just as a reiteration, you just need to use 15-minute charts. Okay. And then you just have to realize that you could get stopped out any day. So again, all you're doing is just looking for pattern recognition, right? For those that learn this one pattern, I mean, here it is. You can just kind of see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you broke above this, and this is where you were actionable, right? So this is where you were actionable. Not so much here, but here. So if you're in this after this break up, right, you might have even gotten stopped out on this here, right? Because then you broke down. So you have a rising or a falling wedge. You break the falling wedge. Everybody knows what this pattern is, hopefully, if you've been following me for a while. And at the end of this video, I'll link this candlestick video. If you have not watched this candlestick video, do yourself and your trading account a favor and watch this candlestick video, please. But you see what's going on here? Look at that morning star, right? So for those that recognize a morning star pattern, they were able to act on that. And then we had confirmation that it was complete and went higher, right? So instead of acting here after being stopped out here, right? Now, if you were to re-enter, you're entering here. Okay. So that's how you would trade this, right? And then you just let it trade itself up. And what type of stop you use is entirely up to you. I mean, this is a pretty simple trade using a trend line. Trades up, tests, keeps testing it, opens below it, breaks it, ticks down, takes out that low. You could be out of the trade, or you could say, I'm going to stay in it and just use my cost. It's up to you what you decide to do with it. But that's how you have to trade this now. You're going to have to get in and out of it because the day that this breaks, and it will break unless somebody just buys it. And notice too, it's getting to that point where, see how you have these green bars and they're full? Now I'm starting to get wicks. I'm getting a little more uncertainty, right? When this reverses, it's going to reverse like this. I mean, it's just a question of when. You're going to get something nasty like this, and we're just trying to figure out when exactly that's going to happen. And you could see this on the open, and then that was the end of it. And eventually AMEH will do that. We just don't know when it will happen. So you can't plan for it. You just have to be aware of it. So Amazon, I just want to go over. I think everybody, this is from the newsletter. And if you don't get the newsletter, there's a free version that comes out every Wednesday. So you're probably going to want to just click the link in the bio and get a copy of that. It's free. There's some, actually, we update it and there's actually some fairly good ideas in there. But let's get past that for a moment. Let's just jump into this. So, somebody that was texting me today, or I shouldn't say texting, emailing me. Let's get rid of these fibs for a moment. And they're talking about it, and they're talking about how they want to be involved in it, and they're looking at options, and they're buying puts and calls and, trying to trade this. You're trying to trade this stock. I just want to put something in perspective. You're trying to trade this stock for a 70 basis point move. And it's easier for me to explain this, right, than via vocally than for me to type an email. You're looking for a 70 basis point move, right? If you plan this out right, you're in at 35.88. Okay, that's your stop. The stop could be moved up, right? And you're looking for 4,500. You're looking for 30% move. You're looking for a 70 basis point move on an option trade. Do you know how many times you have to be right and wrong in order for that to work, right? That's a very difficult thing to do. You're better off playing the option and playing what's going on here than getting involved in some quick short-term trade that somebody showed you how to do. Like, understand what's going on here. The real money that was made, like if you really look at this stuff, and I do trade, but look at this. Look at that chart, right? For 4 years, 5 years. So you're trying to trade, when you're looking at this, you're trying to trade for 70 basis points. Why bother? Why not just look at this and go, if you want to own options, just go, I'm going to wait until it takes out that high and I have an outside bar in the weekly and I'm going to buy calls. I mean, it's so clean, so easy. And then you're not stressing yourself out watching every 5-minute bar. Just something to think about if that's what you're trying to do. If you're trying to day trade, knock yourself out. But understand that trying to beat this around for 70 basis points on a put for the day is it's just silly. It's a matter of time before you get run over. And, it's very hard to make money that way trading. I had a client, and this was years ago. I mean, as everybody knows, I say this too often, but I've been doing this over 2 decades. And I had a client years ago, like literally one of my first clients. And he used to say to me, you're worried about the pennies and the elephants are running wild. So or you're worried about the peanuts and the elephants are running wild. So just think like that, right? And concern yourself with where can I make the most amount of money with the least amount of risk. And it sure as heck is not buying weekly puts on Amazon. So that said, to me, I see a stock that is set up to run. Whether people want to see that or not see that, I see a stock that broke out on above average volume that is above a 1-year base. Okay. And you are flagging. You are forming a flag, right? No matter how you want to cut it, you're forming a flag. You could argue the flag's down here. You could argue it's tight in this range and this is an anomaly. We can have those conversations. What is not debatable is that this is a bull flag. That's not open for debate. That's what it is. So why are you trying to get the little pieces and the crumbs and the peanuts when the elephants are running wild and this thing's with the 8, the 21, the 50, the 200 pointing higher? Like, just focus on the meat of the trade. So that's really it. I think this is going a lot higher. I'm just going to be blunt. Like, I have this in the newsletter. I think this is an easy 20, 25% move over the course of the next 3 months. I really believe that. And, you're seeing all kinds of signs that point in that direction here. Increased volume, moving averages pointing up, formations, the bullish engulfing that happened the other day. So, that's just my opinion. Obviously, I've been wrong before. CLF, I wanted to cover really quickly for everybody. It's very interesting. You look at this market today, right? So what transpired? Energy came down. TNA came down, meaning the IWM, which we're going to get into the small cap index later in this. What happened? All of a sudden, it reversed by the end of the day. So I think it's very interesting. Like, we're just in a market where people are trying to position themselves for one piece of data tomorrow, right? And I'm not saying it's not pertinent. Of course it is. But does anyone think that piece of data is not going to show that there's some signs of inflation as we all kind of go through it, try to figure out what we're going to do about that and what the Fed's going to do? The Fed's going to do what they're going to do. They're going to try to hold off on doing anything until the economy is back on its feet racing. And that means that we're going to have some inflation, and we're going to have to deal with that. I mean, that's pretty clear, their stance. That said, something like this can benefit from that. So you see how you have this wedge? You broke out of this wedge. I have no volume, none. So this could fail, just like we watched Lulu fail today, right? This was one from the top 10 list I kept talking about and saying, yeah, it broke out, but the probability of it failing is greater because we don't have above average volume. And then today, what happened? We failed. So something like that, you could see a lot of failed breakouts tomorrow in energy names, in small cap names, and tech could roll over tomorrow. Anything can happen, right? We just have to have a game plan. What I'm saying to you is to get to the top of this level is $26. So again, I'm not looking for much out of this. I'm looking for 3 points, but I just wanted to point out that you have no volume going on here. But you are sitting on a volume shelf, and now between this wedge line, the 21 and the 8, you have support. So if you want to stay in the trade and you love the name, stay in it. But I would use that as my, get out. DDD was on my short list as one that I really wanted to buy. I really wanted to be in the stock. I love the stock. I love the earnings. Their growth is just absolutely insane. 3D printing, 5 years ago, I think 4% of it was from aerospace. Now it's like 15%. It's just an absolute booming business. Let's get rid of all this and let's get rid of everything and start over. We'll get rid of everything. Yes, everything. So this is pretty much worst case scenario. Okay. This is exact opposite of what you want to have happen. And this is why you have stops. Okay. So you have this wedge here and you're waiting to break out of this wedge, and you do. And you break out and you look like you're going higher. And then you come back down from that open point and you go back under the wedge and you close at the low. That's about as nasty as you can get of a reversal. It doesn't get much worse than that when you buy something and then have it reverse on you, right? I mean, you literally are buying it at 34.5 and you're at 31. So there is no reason to be in this, okay? And I want to just walk through something. This is the stock today. If you set up a simple, right? If you set up just a simple thing in your head that I'm not buying anything that's breaking out and hitting new highs until I see the first 15 minutes of the chart, right? And then I don't care if I'm paying up. I want it to clear the top of this. If you just set that up today, yes, maybe you weren't in this. Maybe you had to look for another setup to try and get in it if it happened. Maybe you tried this setup on this break and it didn't work, right? Because there's like there's a probability of a morning star forming here. Maybe you try it, you see the RSI, and it gets you in. But off this 15 minutes off the open, there was no reason to buy this stock. None. Look at this. I mean, that's about as nasty as you're going to get, right? In 15 minutes, I open, I rip up, I go below the open, and I close here. Like that is telling you there is no reason to be in this stock, right? Not only do I close below the open of the previous Friday. So just sometimes it pays to look at this and have a little patience before you buy something. Docu, I actually just caveat, I have a position in this, so I think it's ready to run. We got a little failed breakout today. Let's get rid of everything, and let's look what's going on. So I like it, but it clearly did not do the breakout like it was supposed to today. There was a really easy trade off the open that we took in the community, and that was great. But as far as staying with the trade in and of itself, this is not going to shake me out. I have zero volume going on. I had what I wanted off the open, and we'll just go. I can do it on a 5-minute and get to it. So this is one tool that I'll use, and let me just open this up, and we'll get rid of all this other stuff for a moment so you can understand it a little bit better. Okay, so this is relative volume, and this is extremely helpful to use relative volume because it basically just shows you where you are relative to the other volume spots. This is a count of 30, right? And that is over this time period, okay? Just to kind of put it in perspective so you can understand. It's 30 data points on this on a 5-minute, not over anything else. But here's the point of this bar. Okay, when I saw this, I'm at 10x volume, right? So I'm 10 times my normal volume. Well, that's really where you want to be. So that was a clear buy. Now, if you don't like this and then you're just watching the 5-minute and you break this 295, just go, okay, well, I'm going to get out of the trade, right? I mean, that could have been it. You could have gotten out. I don't think anybody really expected this nasty bar to come down, fill in the gap, and then close where it did. But this is what you got. At the end of the day, you saw a bunch of people just saying, I'll get out and deal with it tomorrow. So that's what transpired, and that's how I placed the trade. Now, what do you do with this? I'm still in it. I'm going to honor the position. This is how I have the trade mapped out. I'm waiting for 280. And it broke on big volume. I bought the stock. It just didn't have the follow through. But the potential there was to make money. I mean, there was an 8-point move from where we got in. So, and there was the option trade too. So, I mean, it all went well. It would have been better had it closed, higher. I would like to have at least seen this, at least close above this. And we just didn't. So people just completely lost interest in the end of the day. Here, look, right? Here's my spike. And then I have below average after the spike all day long. So that just kind of tells you people were like, I'll just wait till tomorrow now. So let's see what happens with that tomorrow. But I do like this. I think this is setting up for a very large move through this level. And we'll see how that goes. See how it plays out. So Ford, let me get rid of my email address. I just want to go through this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I just want to go through it very quickly for those that are watching it. If you're looking for EV names, I'm not really sure why people aren't buying Ford. No one has more orders for EV than Ford. I mean, it's pretty clear right now who the winner is for at least for trucks and pickup trucks. I mean, it's very clear that they've won. Between the F-150, the Bronco, I last count I saw was 200,000 orders. No one's even close. So I like this. And here, let me just move this out of the way. And I want to get rid of all these horizontal lines. And let's get rid of all this stuff too, all these segment lines. So, and we're just going to start over. Sometimes it's just easier, cleaner. And we can just leave them in there for later. But you see how clean that line is? See your little morning star right here, undercut of that breakout bar? Just enough to shake everybody out. Just enough to cut down, shake everybody out, and pop back up. So what we need to see is we need to first break this wedge. Once you break that wedge, this is your first stop, right? And then they're just going to walk us up to here. That'll be next, okay? But again, as always, when someone asks me about this stock, I show this because I find this very important. Okay. That is a 21-year secular downtrend that's been broken. Look at the volume that's been kicking up in this name since 2000. It's excessive. So there's a very good chance, again, wow, it got the $4. So there's a very good chance here that what we're seeing here has the potential to really move higher. So just consider that. I think this could move a lot higher, frankly. I don't see any reason to think that I can't get back to at least this level in the short term, 1785. FDX, let's just keep going here and let's go in the daily. So FDX looks like it's getting ready to make another move. We've been bouncing around in here, and I'll throw in these indicators so we have them because they're pertinent for this one. You can tell by just looking at it. So, and you were basing, but you're not basing anymore. You got right to the 200 or you got right to the 50, and what'd you do? You rejected it. You bounced right off of it. You still closed above the wick, but you have to get above that, and you have to get above this 304.59 before considering getting it. If it does do that, if it gets above this, that means it's going to reclaim itself to here, right? Because these wedges, when they break, these are your targets. The points are your targets. So that's the easiest way to look at it. Gives you an understanding of where something might get to. Let's pull this up. So that's how I would play FDX. I like it, but that's where you're at. This FTNT, we're just going to cover this very, very quickly. I just want to point out that you are clearly out of the channel. So, we're either going to run or come back in. At the top of the channel today, this is a very odd bar for this stock. And let's pull it up, right? I'm opened at the high. I closed at the low. My next stop is 250. So just for those that are trying to play this, just be aware that's kind of like a reversal bar, especially here, look. Especially if I take out a lower low tomorrow. It's definitely a reversal bar. So just watch that one. JKS, I wanted to go over. There's, again, there's certain names I just want people to be aware of. If you look at what's going on there, solar is moving. Here was our close, and this was the wick that got us a little scared. Well, 3 days later, we're through that wick. We're through the majority of that wick. If you get through this, 63.46, right? This is going to go. All this over here, you're going to start getting involved with. And this is a great one to just kind of look at volume by price because it will tell us what we're running into. And this is all what you're going to run into up here. But my point of control was down here, and my VWAP on the volume by price is right here. So while this is an issue, right? Of course, this is an issue. It's not as big of an issue as it could be, right? There's more stock down here. And this was our VWAP on that volume by price, right? Than up here. So just keep that in mind. I like that trade. I think that could really work. LAC, I wanted to show because lithium, everybody was talking about today, and this did have a breakout. And there are a couple things going on here that you may want to pay attention to. The 1697 level, if you get through that, which you've hit here, you failed there. That was support. It broke. This was resistance. It broke. This is a huge level for the stock. And I just want to point out that that 1697 is also the VWAP of volume by price. So that's very interesting that they're both connected like that. And to me, I think when you see something like that, that means that you could propel higher. And I love the volume that came in here. And I'm right against all these moving averages, and I held all of them and the point of control. So as far as a spot that you would buy this, 1697, close over 1697, and I think it's definitely worth giving that one a shot. MBUU, Malibu Boats. I just wanted to show this one very quickly because you see how you have this downtrend here? Look, I can take all this out and then we'll get back to it because I do want to put that stuff in because it's important on this one. See how you broke out today, right? Now, this is your trend and we're going to clone it. And it's not going to be perfect, but you're going to see it. Well, it's about as perfect as you can get, isn't it? Bonk, 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 right? The whole way down. And you see how all of a sudden you're getting tighter? So I like that. Like, that's really very interesting. But here's my point of control. Here's my VWAP. Here's the majority of where people own this sucker. Here's my volume spiking. Here's the 200 holding. I'm running into the 50. So if you're interested in this MBUU, I'm not telling you not to be interested. What I'm saying is before I would buy it, I would realize that I am breaking this channel. And by breaking this channel, this gives me the potential to get to here, right? So if I can get to here in $89, maybe it's worth waiting to 77 3/4. Let's look at what the 50-day is. Let's not guess, right? Let's just get to it. 77.45. So if I can get to 77 3/4, I would rather wait the $2, right? And know that I'm shooting for this than get in this and get rejected by the VWAP of volume by price, the point of control, the 50-day. Like, why play games? Doesn't make any sense. So that's what I would look for. So I want to just review this really quickly. I mean, this is obviously, congratulations to those that are in this. MDIA, just an absolute monster move. It's probably doing something after hours. Yep. It's down. But I just want to review, this is how you play these names. And I'm just going to give you an example. Let me find a really good one. Okay. And let's get rid of volume by price because you can use it, but we're not going to use it in this case. And just throw in VWAP and get rid of everything else. So I just want to point this out to people. It's a way to kind of learn and see what's going on. All you're doing with this is establishing the volume. This is your VWAP, right? You always want to make sure that if you're long this, you kind of want to be above it. But if you're playing this, right, you're really just going to look for pattern recognition the whole way up. I mean, that's all you're doing the whole time that you're in this, right? And if you do that, you see where I'm putting these levels? So, and if you do that and you assign these levels to it, you can see how you can get in this and stay in it and trade it that way. That's the only real way to trade this. Now, if you're trying to stay in this a little bit longer, you have to go to like a 15-minute chart and start looking at better pattern recognition and seeing how you're dealing with that. And you see the wedge breaks and then you go, then you see another break like here, right? And that's what you have to do. That's what you're playing. And then when these bars are in, you're playing this as your stop. So that's how you have to play these, right? You can see that this flag, when you broke out of this flag right here, right, that low becomes your stop. That's how you have to look at this kind of stuff. So you have to use shorter time frame charts to trade this kind of thing. You can't be looking at this and going, oh, it's going to 50, right? You come in tomorrow because they do a secondary and it's at 4. So just keep that in mind. So I just wanted to kind of go through that. I have no idea where this is going. Frankly, no one has any idea where this is going. You know, people think it's going to open up tomorrow. It could. It could open up 10, 15 points. Or again, as I said, they could do a secondary tonight, or anything could happen, right? So you're just hoping at this point. So this is a great example. So this is NEGG. And just looking at this, right? 79, 07, 58, 80, 43. Let's get rid of the VWAP because we don't need it here. And we can throw these in, but they're probably going to be pretty pointless, right? They're all going to be down here. There's really no point. So here's your break, and then you just start setting levels to it. But you can see once you break those levels, that's it, right? Once you tried, and this was your high, and you tried again, you couldn't get through it. So this is telling you pretty much, like this one's pretty much telling you, we're going to test that 28 level. That's what this one's telling you. Now, I have more data here than I had in the other one, right? So you can go here and go, okay, I want to look at an hourly and a half-hour chart and see if I see pattern recognition. And you really don't. You just see wedges forming and then breaks, right? So it's not really giving you any more value. You can try to drop it to a 30-minute. And again, you're not getting any more value out of it. But that's one way to try and spot other levels. For those that are in NEGG, I would just say that you're probably heading to this 28, 27 level. NIO, I'm going to spend very little time on, but I want to go through this. Okay. This red bar is in charge. Okay. All this going on here is just a bear flag forming. That's all it is. And that bear flag is forming right under this, and we can't get above this line. So if you're in this, that's what you own, right? And I can't get above the 21 day. And I'm sure if we throw in the 8 day, that's not going to be pretty. So I don't see any reason to be jumping into this. Again, if I wanted to be in this, I would be looking to get above that red bar. That would make me want to get involved in it. Until that, I have no interest. So just keep that in mind. And this is a little longer tonight because I have a lot of stocks that were kind of pertinent. I tried to whittle it down, but I get about 300 requests. And today, you know, I just saw so many that needed to at least tell you very quickly what I think. Because of where some of these levels are, they're really poignant. So this is very interesting. Like I'm very surprised by this, frankly. I gapped down. I formed two dojis. Well, I formed a doji and a hammer. I gap over the hammer and back over the 8 day. And the open is the low, the high is the close. Like I'm pretty much speechless by it. We did fairly well with this one before. We made over 100 points in it. I'm not touching this until it breaks this, right? Once it gets through that, you're going to have my attention again. There's no question about it. You're definitely going to have my attention again because the fib levels, when we were looking at the fib levels before, they were at like 975. That's drawn horribly. Hold on. So you were at 975. So you could still get up here. I mean, right? You could still get to this 880 level. I mean, there is room up there. So let's see what happens with it. But I was absolutely shocked and happy for those that hold it. I mean, it's just acting absolutely amazing. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get a little more coffee. Okay. So sorry about that. I guess someone will put a timestamp in on when I got coffee. So what you're going to see here with Roku is very interesting. And I just want to focus on it for a minute, right? So just take a look at that and try to understand that there's a cup there, right? And you can see the cup starting in March 2021. Okay. That's when the cup starts right here. You see that? And then it swoops down. Okay. And now let's get rid of these indicators for a moment and just focus on this. See this cup? Okay. So people will recognize this one because everybody loves the name. Everyone likes Roku, right? And people are really just starting to understand what they're going to do and why they're so important. And what I'm going to say is I get it, and I'm looking at breaking out of this cup and getting involved in it. What I didn't like today was today's action, but we saw this in a lot of stocks. We saw this even in the docu that I bought that, at one point I was up in, and then I it closed and I'm down a little bit in. So you're seeing this a lot. So the question becomes, what are you going to do about this? I don't think this is over because I closed red today and didn't follow through. So there are a couple different ways to play this, and I'm going to just tell you this is on my short list. I like this a lot. And one of the reasons why I like this one is the depth. Like, this is really a very deep cup, right? So I could see a huge move out of this. Now, that said, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to look for that move. So I'm going to give it a little more time, right? Just a little more, not a lot. So like here, let me show you. See this? So what was the high of this? 445.88. What was the high here? 445.88. What was the high here? 445.88, right? You see, like there's something going on there, right? 445.45. Okay. There's something going on at that level. So I'm paying attention to that. Now I don't have that drawn perfectly. So let's try to make that a little better. Okay. Perfect. Hold on once. There we go. So that's telling me what I need to get through. So instead of focusing now on this break and then saying, I have to watch this, all I'm going to focus on is getting over that high. Why? Not because of just that high, but because I got stopped out there I didn't get stopped, but it stopped there 1, 2, 3 times, right? So when you start seeing patterns like that, you need to pay attention to those patterns. And that's exactly where I'm going with this. I really like this trade. I think this trade could be a huge winner this year. I know it's moved dramatically, but I don't think this is anything in relation to what it can move. So just keep that in mind. But that's really what I'm looking for. You have this huge cup here. Here's your handle. And now I'm just looking for it to clear this level because I really don't want to be buying it up here. I really don't want to spend another $20 on it. I don't want to spend another 5% because then at that point, it's like, why not just wait for it to do this? And I'm not going to wait for that. I'm going to wait for it to get out of this handle and clearly get out of the handle. And getting above this little wick, that'll do that. That'll get me there. So Space, Space came out with a secondary. You can almost set your watch to it. It was one that we were looking at today going short, and I think hopefully I was pretty vocal on it. But let's take a look at what you do with this. What would you do with this, right? Like you can't be long this right now and think that you're safe, right? There's really very little way that you could do that, right? So hold on one second here. So that's really your line. I mean, you can clone this one, and it's probably not going to fit anywhere near as good. But, yeah, we'll leave that one. So they're supposed to be cloned anyway. So you see, like you're right here, and now you're touching here. This bar, issuing the secondary, I mean, it's a great time to watch him go to space. Like, that was really cool to me. What is more important is what do you do with the stock? Like this morning, I hope I was very clear. Like I thought this was going down, and it did. We just got a little lucky on the trade with the secondary. Now, what I would say is if you wanted to buy this, I would not be a buyer of this until the secondary is out. You need the secondary to come out, decide where they're going to be able to get stock at, and go from there. And you could look at where they've done other secondaries and realize when they do a secondary, they're not pricing it higher usually. They're usually pricing it at like a key level. So, this couldn't even hold the 21 day today. So realistically, to me, I wouldn't be surprised to see this pricing, with some kind of 3 handle right now. So, and I don't know. I think it'll probably come in the next day or two. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of interest now, longer term, to fund this, considering what happened this weekend. But you can't chase this. You're catching a falling dagger. Just stay away from it. SQM I wanted to cover very quickly. So see how this red bar is in charge? Look. Hold on one second. Right? Where'd you close? Right on that red bar. But this is really great action. So get through this on this kind of volume that you're seeing. Like this kind of volume is awesome. Like this is 2x volume. That's what you want. It's exactly what you want. Let's get that through this, right? And then you could probably get back to this 59 level. And this is SQM. So STLD I wanted to cover, Steel Dynamics. I know a lot of people are looking at these steel names. We're going to cover U.S. Steel a little bit later. So look at this name and look what's going on here, right? What's happening again? This is almost like an identical trade to the one I just showed you, right? That's the top of the bar, but what happened here? We closed above it, and we closed over this whole area and above that. So I like this, and I would argue that this one looks like it's pretty much set out of the other ones that we looked at that have something to do with steel. This one looks a lot better to me. I'm above the 8, I'm above the 21, I'm above the 50. Like this one looks like it's something, and I'm above the red bar that broke down. When we look at US Steel, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I like this. And there's an enormous channel here. Like if we can get into this channel, this can go. I mean, this could really go. So I like this one a lot. Task, I just wanted to point this out really quick. It's a smaller one. So you don't have 30 days of data. So all I'm going to do here with this one is go out for 30 days, get rid of the indicators, and just say you need to be really careful here, right? This is showing a lot of signs of something that is going to have major issues. And I just want to point out a couple things. I have wicks all over the place. Those that studied that candlestick video that I'm going to link at the back of this would know this and know that wicks are all price rejection. And every time I'm trying to get higher and higher, what's happening? I'm getting a wick, right? This is on the hourly. That's not what you want to see. That means that they are selling any kind of rally in this. So I would be very careful here. Now, if you just do this, you can kind of get a sense of which way you're going, right? And if you want to look at the channel, we can just clone it, right? And then it'll probably fit right in there. There you go. So that's really what you want to look for. I would be avoiding this. If I broke 30.23, that would be it for me. I would be out. So TNA was something I bought on Friday. Look, you're going to have to get used to the games in the first 15 minutes on light volume days, okay? And that's exactly what today was. See this bar? And anytime that they can figure out a game, they're going to do it. So the low of this one was 91.51. The low of this one was 91.46. So they took you down low enough to do what? For somebody like myself to look at this and say, I need to get out of this because I just broke the original or the opening range breakout bar at on the 15 minute. Okay, now let's just put this into perspective. Here's the IWM. Okay, they did the same exact thing on the index. Right? So it's not like they just did it there. They did it in both places. What happened? We closed at the high. So what did they do? They triggered. So I'm going to say if they're doing this now, they're on indexes and 3X ETFs, they can do it on your stock. So just plan appropriately on how you're going to trade and watch the first 15 minutes to half hour, especially tomorrow going into the CPI, right? Because you can see this. So they took everybody out if you were playing that game. And what happened? They closed at a high. Okay? Just be aware of that. It's important. The TNA trade, I still like. It's acting great, in my opinion. We made a higher high today. I think we're heading back to that 101 level. So we'll see. We'll see. If we get bad news tomorrow, maybe it gives me another shot. Maybe if it sells off tomorrow, it gives me another shot to add to it. So TTD, I'll cover very quickly. I've been covering it a lot lately. There's not really much to report, but I know a lot of people are in it and watching it. So let's just get into it. You're staying above the 8-day. You've had one day where you closed below the 8-day at the low of this range. You just hit the top of this range, popped out of it again and failed, and you're back in it. And you're just holding in here. There is nothing to do. I did not expect this to be a huge high flyer. I expected this to grind its way higher. And to do that, we're going to have to build a base. And so it's building this flag out. I have too many lines in here for you to see all this. So, but now you can see it. See how I'm building that flag? Just let it build its flag. It's fine. There's nothing to do with this. I still am very comfortable with this one heading back to this 97 range in the next couple months. Viacom, I just wanted to cover because they've made it abundantly clear that they no longer want to go it alone. And we're not going to talk about the drop. We're just going to focus on this with Viacom. Okay, this is all you need to focus on now because really the red bar, right? This red bar, we're going to say that's in charge. I mean, that's a 50% move. So there's really no reason for me to look at this more so than just like, let's look at the close, right? And we could set that as a level. But these are your key levels. You broke this one. You're trying to get above the first, and you're still not able to. And if you throw in the indicators, you still don't have a ton of volume. So you're going to have to really watch this. But I wanted to throw it out there because could this move? Yes, it could. But I would want to start seeing it get above a higher high, right? The real first higher high you have to watch this get above is this 47.48, 47.45. And you might not want to wait for that, but that's really what you need. And then getting above this 48.25 and getting into the meat of this is where this gets interesting. So I don't know if someone's going to acquire them or what they're going to do, but that's something to be aware of. So this is what I was talking about when I was talking about STLD. Right, and the difference, okay? So, and that's Steel Dynamics. Here, look. Okay, here's U.S. Steel. Okay, I'm above the 8. I just got above the 21. I can't get above the 50, right? What chart looks better? So just kind of keep that in mind. It does make a difference in your performance. So what you're seeing here, let's get rid of all these indicators, and let's open this wide. This red bar is still in charge until I get to 25.87, which I think I do get to, right? And clear that, there's no reason for me to be in this trade. I know people are interested in playing this, and people bought it today because they think the inflationary trade's back on, and they're trying to get ahead of it with steel. It's why I saw people position in energy today at the end of the day. It's why I saw the financials do what they were going to do. JP Morgan comes out with earnings tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. But in regards to this, I would not chase this. Get me through these levels, and then we could talk. You still have to hop back through this channel line here. So you have some work to do. So that's it in a nutshell. As always, please like and share this video and subscribe to the channel because what we go over here is very timely. Thank you very much. I know this was a long one today.